Hi, heroes. Fasten your seatbelts, because Mighty Marvel is about to take you to a new dimension. It's the exciting, interactive dimension where you'll find your favorite Marvel heroes and villains on CD. Right before your eyes, we're about to turn your computer into a fantastic on-screen comic book, which will give you more than 80 pages of dazzling superhero action. Just look at all you're going to get. Your favorite Marvel thrillers with all new computer-enhanced coloring, plus extra backstory pages that weren't included in the original comics. Special panels offering exciting clips for Marvel's top-rated TV animated shows with fantastic interactive sound effects just for you. And would you believe that your own favorite superheroes will personally accompany you through each and every story? How can we give you so much, so fast, so generously? Hey, that's why our name is Marvel.
You fools! Professor?
It was here.
What was here, Professor?
I don't know. I felt a psychic probe of enormous power. The same one that has been haunting me, that warned me of the trouble aboard the space station. Only this time, it dug deeper. The probe overwhelmed all of the safeguards I have built to control the surging powers of my mind, including the dark side. The destructive urges that live within us all, with the shroud that conceals it ripped away. That dark side of my nature lashed out without reason or compassion, trying to destroy what I care about the most, the X-Men.
She's at a small private hospital on the east side. A colleague of Beast is looking after her. And Rogue, get back as soon as you can. We may need you.
Ingrate! Incompetent fool!
Professor, you're...
I am here to destroy you.
Scott!
Why are you doing this? I don't want to hurt you.
But I want to hurt you.
No, Scott!
I can't fight it.
He's making you imagine that a force beam's affecting you. It's all in your mind. He was just a psychic projection from the professor's mind.
But why?
Something's wrong. His mind seems to be out of control.
See if you can reach him, Jean, while I contact the X-Men.
Professor Xavier. Professor... Evasive action!
Who knocked? It was some sort of stun ray.
Lilandra's out cold from a leftover hush puppy.
The ray may have been specifically attuned to Shi'ar life forms. Aliens, Corsair! Ugly ones, too! Who are you calling ugly lizard lips? Get the crystal! Interesting weaponry. Effective, too.
These are not the Emperor's troops. They are intergalactic pirates who call themselves the Star Jammers.
Pirates? Where they keep their swords and eye patches?
Rotha! Aye, Captain. Recalibrate the stun ray for humans. But, Captain... Fire, Rotha! Come, Hepzibah.
Yuriko? Locked. Good thing I brought a key. What's going on here? Professor, walking. Marvel Comics presents the Uncanny X-Men in The Phoenix Saga. Professor Charles Xavier cries out in the night. Despite his powerful mutant mind, he is unable to stop the alien dreams which fill his sleep with torment. Just like 100 sleepless nights before, Professor Xavier finds his mind drawn out across infinite space into a nightmare. Two mighty star fleets battle in the desolate void around a giant binary sun. Professor Xavier watches helplessly as strange alien starships annihilate one another. One small scout ship survives the carnage, and Xavier is drawn unwillingly toward it. For the 100th time, he wonders. Torn from his nightmare, just as he finally glimpsed the pilot of the scout ship. Alarmed by Xavier's scream, Moira McTaggart finds the professor in the kitchen, where he admits he fears he is losing his mind.
It's trying to hurt you. Why would they? Why can't you get away?
Help me, Charles Xavier. Help me. For the sake of the future, help me.
They're coming.
Part 1. Christmas in Manhattan. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Banshee, Moira McTaggart, Storm, Colossus, and Nightcrawler gather at the famed Rockefeller Center ice rink and marvel at the Big Apple's first white Christmas in years. As Colossus and Nightcrawler chat with a pair of pretty young women, Banshee and Moira McTaggart excuse themselves for an afternoon of sightseeing. Leaving a gruff Wolverine to his solitude, Cyclops and Jean Grey enter Rockefeller Center. Very much in love, Cyclops and Jean Grey embrace and enter the restaurant high atop Rockefeller Center. Their happiness is soon shattered by the violent arrival of a pair of huge, familiar-looking robots. The Sentinels have returned. Very much in love, Cyclops and Jean Grey embrace. Realizing that their powers have grown stronger since the X-Men last faced the Sentinels, Jean Grey and Cyclops manage to overcome the robot's defenses. A mutant mind blast knocks one of the attackers outside the building, where Cyclops' optic beam finishes him. Cyclops falls under the second Sentinel's withering attack. Believing the mutant terminated, the robot incapacitates Jean Grey with gas and initiates an ultra-linear leap. Still alive, Cyclops clings desperately to a rapidly collapsing radio mast. As the wreckage of a destroyed Sentinel crashes down around the X-Men on the ground, Banshee realizes the danger they face. He sends Moira McTaggart and Storm to warn Nightcrawler and Colossus, and then takes to the skies with Wolverine in tow. Riding the night winds to the top of Rockefeller Center, Storm rescues the dangling Cyclops. They land on the roof, where another Sentinel attacks, toppling Cyclops with a powerful blast. Defiant, Storm faces off against the massive robot. Suddenly, the top of Rockefeller Center is engulfed in the rampaging power of a hurricane. Storm focuses all of its fury on the Sentinel, and the menacing machine is destroyed. Safe for the moment, Cyclops realizes they must warn Professor Xavier about the Sentinels. On a yacht trolling the Bahama Islands, Professor Xavier consults with Dr. Peter Corbeau. Corbeau hasn't been able to locate the star system in Xavier's dream, and advises his friend to seek professional help. As Professor Xavier's dream images return to his mind, a huge Sentinel tears apart the boat. Dr. Corbeau manages to survive the impact and reaches the surface in time to see the Sentinel speeding away with Xavier, his prisoner. In a high-tech laboratory, Dr. Stephen Lang supervises tests on the mutants captured by his Sentinels. He reveals that he intends to wipe out all mutant kind, starting with the X-Men, the only mutants to successfully oppose the original Sentinels. When Stephen Lang strikes a defiant Jean Grey, Wolverine bursts free of his shackles. Lang orders a Sentinel to secure the mutant, but this time, Wolverine is ready for the robot, and his claws tear it open like a tin can. Wolverine frees Banshee and Jean Grey, but they balk at leaving without Professor Xavier, who is still unconscious. The arrival of another Sentinel forces them to flee. Banshee unleashes a piercing sonic scream at the robot, so his teammates can escape. Using his sonic scream to decimate everything in his path, Banshee carries his teammates out of the Sentinel complex. The mutants' escape ends abruptly when they pass through the final wall and find themselves unexpectedly adrift in an icy void of space. The X-Men's hopes for freedom change suddenly to fear of the quick death that awaits them as they float helplessly in space. Temporary salvation approaches in the form of a pair of Sentinels dispatched from their orbiting headquarters. The Sentinels encase Banshee, Wolverine, and Jean Grey in atmospheres, saving their lives at the last possible minute. But once again, the mutants are prisoners. Back on Terra Firma, a StarCorps project shuttle prepares for takeoff. A mysterious replacement crew boards the StarCorps shuttle. They are, in fact, members of the X-Men, recruited by the shuttle's pilot, Dr. Peter Corbeau, for a very special rescue mission.
Breaking into government installations, not usually our style.
All right, Beast. Get us over that fence.
With pleasure.
Hey!
You lie around on the job, huh? Any landing you can walk away from, old boy.
Do that again, and we'll see where you land.
Come on, quit fooling around.
Sorry, Dad. The StarCorps shuttle blasts into space, for an instant turning the night sky bright as noon. As the craft hurtles away from the Earth, its crew of heroes find themselves lost in thought, contemplating the dangerous journey ahead.
Ignition. Liftoff.
Aboard his orbiting space platform, Dr. Stephen Lang denies landing privileges to the StarCorps shuttle. When sensors indicate the presence of mutants on the ship, Lang dispatches a force of Sentinels, which quickly scores a direct hit on the small craft. The Sentinels' weapons tear a gaping hole in the shuttlecraft. As explosive decompression threatens all of the X-Men aboard, Dr. Corbeau takes a desperate gamble. He points his ship straight at the orbital platform and rams it. Sucked out of the damaged shuttle, Storm finds herself facing down an attacking Sentinel. Using her command of the elements, she harnesses the solar winds to propel herself out of harm's way, and then lashes out with the full power of the raging sun itself. Aboard the orbital platform, the X-Men are engaged in an all-out war against the Sentinels. When he sees one of the robots attempt to neutralize Cyclops with gas, Nightcrawler slams a length of pipe through its head. As the last of a dozen Sentinels falls before Cyclops, he marvels at the ease of their victory. The original Sentinels were not so easily defeated. One X-Man still missing, a worried Colossus is relieved when Storm appears safe and sound. Jean Grey telepathically calls Cyclops to come quickly. Stephen Lang is planning to murder the prisoners. The leader of the X-Men is ready for battle. The rest of the team will rescue Wolverine and Banshee, while a furious Cyclops deals with Lang personally. In his laboratory, Dr. Stephen Lang prepares to murder Professor Xavier and Jean Grey. Suddenly, the lab's huge vault-like door is blasted open. A ruby-red beam of force sends Lang sprawling. Into the room strides a vengeful Cyclops. As Jean Grey looks on in horror, Cyclops is struck down from behind. Later, as the rest of the X-Men arrive, they gape in wonder at the new enemy which now stands before them. Facing off like opposing armies on the field of battle are two generations of the most powerful mutants the world has ever known, each claiming the name X-Men. Part 2. X-Men versus X-Men. To the death. Once they were all friends, but now X-Men old and new are locked in furious battle. The current team members don't understand why their predecessors have attacked them, but they're determined to defend themselves with every ounce of their powers. Though Storm tries, this is not the time for talk. The original X-Men are out for blood, and while the battle rages around him, Professor Xavier cries ever louder for the deaths of the new X-Men. A double-footed kick from the ever-agile beast propels Nightcrawler into Cyclops. When Nightcrawler quizzes the team leader on why they fight amongst themselves, he finds himself in the receiving end of one of Cyclops' optic blasts. Wolverine's claws cut into Iceman's frozen hide, but he is tossed into Colossus by the Angel before much damage can be done. A fastball special by Colossus sends his angry teammate hurtling back toward the Angel, razor-sharp claws at the ready. Pure energy pulses from the body of Havoc, pounding Colossus, pushing the younger Russian to the limits of his endurance. Enraged, Colossus battles back, bringing a girder down on his enemy with devastating force. Storm is reluctant to fight, allowing Polaris to use her magnetic powers to crush Storm beneath a pile of metal wreckage. Only a sudden assault from behind prevents Polaris and Marvel Girl from finishing Storm. Banshee's sonic scream drives Marvel Girl and Polaris away from the injured Storm. Across the room, Wolverine battles his way toward Professor Xavier, who amazes the short-tempered mutant by standing up out of his wheelchair and attacking him. Marvel Girl attacks Wolverine with her mental powers, paralyzing his mind. Relying only on his instincts and his hyper-keen senses, Wolverine struggles forward. To his teammate's shock, he brings his claws down on the woman they believe to be Jean Grey. In Stephen Lang's control room, the scientist watches as Wolverine tears apart Marvel Girl, revealing her to be nothing more than a robot. His ex-Sentinels, the ultimate in anti-mutant technology, are exposed for what they really are. The X-Men discover that Stephen Lang had recovered the notes of Larry Trask, creator of the Sentinels, and became involved with the secret council of the Chosen. But while they wanted to use mutants for their own ends, he simply wished to see all mutants destroyed and developed the X-Sentinels as his weapon. As Stephen Lang rants, the containment cell behind him glows white-hot. Exploding out of his prison, Cyclops frees the rest of the captives and then turns his optic blasts on Lang. As Lang makes his way to a flying gunship to escape Cyclops' fury, he is determined to prove man's superiority over mutants. Cyclops evades the fire of Stephen Lang's gunship and sends him spinning out of control with a well-placed optic blast. Reaching out with her mind, Jean Grey manipulates the controls of Lang's ship and sends it careening toward the view screen. An explosion tears through the control room as Stephen Lang's gunship hits the huge view screen. When the smoke clears, the X-Men regroup and head for their shuttle, where to their horror, they discover the flight control computer has been destroyed. Jean Grey believes she can get the team home by telepathically absorbing Dr. Corbeau's piloting skills. Cyclops refuses to accept this risky plan, but Jean silences his protest with a mental blast.
But the autopilot is shot. I'll have to stay behind and pilot the shuttle for re-entry.
If the radiation level is as high as you say, you would never survive long enough to land us.
I can fly it. I can telepathically absorb Dr. Corbeau's flight training and generate a psychokinetic shield to protect myself from the radiation.
I won't allow it. It's too dangerous.
You said it yourself. The team's mission comes first. There's no other way.
If I can fly... But the autopilot is shot.
As time grows short, Jean Grey embraces Storm and asks her to tell Cyclops she loves him. Then, sealing the hull telekinetically, she pilots the ship away from the crippled orbital platform. Inside the protective life cell of the shuttle, Nightcrawler and Colossus struggle to restrain a panicking Cyclops. As a deadly solar flare engulfs the shuttle, Jean Grey feels her telekinetic shield start to slip. Part 3. Phoenix Rises. Jean Grey lives out what may be the last moments of her life in the heart of a raging solar storm. The radiation-proof life cell has kept the rest of the team safe, but her own telekinetic powers have been unable to protect the shuttle's control cabin. Crippled StarCorps shuttle drops out of the sky, heading toward New York's Kennedy Airport. The X-Men did not expect to make it this far, but when they reach the atmosphere under control, they begin to think they have a chance to make it. The cataclysmic violence of their landing weakens the X-Men's last remaining hopes for survival. Scattering wreckage and burning fuel across the runway, the shuttle slams through the last crash barrier and plummets into Jamaica Bay. For a moment, all is silent and the waters are still. Then, one by one, the X-Men surface.
Correction. I must. Scott! Logan! Someone help me.
The waters around the X-Men suddenly begin to boil turbulently. An iridescent glow builds under the surface, and what emerges from the water is no longer the Jean Grey the X-Men knew. She is now Phoenix. After the fiery form of Jean Grey plummets into the bay, Cyclops carries her to safety on the shore. As help arrives, the X-Men contemplate the mess their landing has made and wonder at the transformation of Jean Grey.
Jean! 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 I can't find her! Jean! Jean!
Help me.
Jean! Jean!
At a Manhattan hospital, the life of Jean Grey hangs in the balance. Professor Xavier dares not use his telepathic powers to help his former pupil, because his mind is still possessed by the persistent alien dream. The doctors finally report that Jean will be just fine, sending the team of mutants into joyful hysterics. Except that is for Cyclops, who moves off to be by himself, overwhelmed by the strain and relief. When Professor Xavier receives a painful telepathic image of Storm, he bursts into Jean Grey's hotel room to find Cyclops. After Jean introduces her roommate, Misty Knight, Xavier leaves quickly with his team leader. Professor Xavier tells Cyclops he must go to the aid of the X-Men, who have been ambushed by Juggernaut. Cyclops refuses. He can do more good for Jean than the X-Men. Xavier's argument is cut short by the reappearance of the alien face from his dreams. As a familiar spaceship approaches Earth, it is bracketed by a volley of photon torpedoes. Elsewhere, Erik the Red convinces the former Herald of Galactus, Firelord, that the X-Men seek to rule the Earth. Firelord swears to slay Professor Xavier. As a rebel princess named Lilandra Neramani approaches Earth in the alien scout ship, an Imperial starship fires upon her. To the captain's shock, the science officer reports that records indicate Earth has beaten back the attack of Galactus 4 times in recent history. Unwilling to tangle with any planet capable of fighting off Galactus, the captain orders his ship to retreat. His quarry takes the opportunity to beam off her ship just as it is destroyed. Below in the New York apartment of Jean Grey, a dinner party is underway. Out of thin air, a strange visitor appears in the apartment. When the alien figure removes the helmet of its spacesuit, Professor Xavier instantly recognizes the face of Lilandra, the focus of the nightmares that have plagued him for months.
Are you out there? I fear you. Yet I sense you may be the answer to my loneliness. You are driving me insane! But I must not fight you! Who are you?
My name is Lilandra.
A sudden explosion collapses the outer wall of Jean Grey's apartment. Firelord appears amidst the rubble and demands that Lilandra and Professor Xavier be turned over to him. A seething Jean Grey transforms into the being called Phoenix and attacks. Harnessing powers she never even dreamed existed, Phoenix rises into the air to face Firelord. Her attack is savage, surprising both of them with its primal fury. While Firelord counterattacks Phoenix with cosmic-powered starbolts, Erik the Red takes advantage of the chaos to sneak into Jean Grey's apartment. Stun blasts from his gauntlets overcome Misty Knight, Professor Xavier, and Lilandra. Erik the Red takes his prisoners to the roof, where he hastily assembles a Stargate. Only the rapidly approaching X-Men can stop his escape, but a power blast overloads their hoverjet, blowing it to pieces. Wielding the awesome power of the sun itself, Phoenix blasts Firelord 12 miles west into the Jersey Meadowlands. Professor Xavier telepathically orders her to return and stop Erik the Red from taking Lilandra. Making the most of his incredible agility, Nightcrawler reaches the roof just in time to see Erik the Red enter the Stargate carrying Lilandra. He tries to follow, but tumbles through to the other side when the Stargate abruptly winks out. Understanding that Lilandra sought to stop her brother, the Emperor, from endangering the entire universe, the X-Men decide they must save Lilandra at all costs. Phoenix reactivates the Stargate and they bravely pass through it into the unknown. Phoenix follows her teammates through the Stargate, and it closes behind her, leaving Xavier to admit that he may have sent his students to their deaths. As this sobering thought sinks in, an angry Fire Lord reappears. Part 4. The M-Cron Crystal. Firelord seeks vengeance on Phoenix, but she has already been transported across infinity by the Stargate, leaving behind only Jean Grey's confused parents, her roommate, and Professor Xavier, who is again crippled by alien nightmares. As Misty Knight comforts Professor Xavier, she demands to know by what right Firelord acts as their judge, jury, and executioner. At that same moment, the disoriented X-Men arrive in a totally alien environment.
It is time to go. Farewell.
The power of Phoenix has brought the X-Men to an alien plane, but even she doesn't know why or where they have landed. Judging from the looks of the alien beings facing them, it's not clear if they will live to learn the answers. The alien forces are as surprised by the arrival of the X-Men as are the mutants. But one thing is clear: this world will soon be at war, and the winner will hold the fate of the universe in their hands. When Cyclops explains that the X-Men have come for Lilandra and Erik the Red, Gladiator, leader of the Imperial Guard, refuses to turn them over. With a well-placed optic blast, Cyclops fells one of the guards, touching off a titanic battle. Banshee's sonic scream scatters the enemy, keeping them off balance, while Cyclops protects Phoenix, whose power is drained from traveling through the Stargate. Nearby, one of the Imperial Guards transforms into a horrifying monster. Using his image inducer to project the illusion of another giant beast, Nightcrawler tricks his enemy into returning to his normal form. A quick teleport brings Nightcrawler close enough to finish the alien with an old-fashioned left jab. Starbolt unleashes the unfettered fury of a solar firestorm upon Wolverine. Hurt, but grimly aware the odds are against him, Wolverine hurls Oracle into Starbolt and quickly turns his attention toward his next target. Ken admires the skill of Lilandra's champions as he leads his sister towards certain death at the hands of the terrible Soul Drinker. Seeing its fanged tongue about to strike Lilandra, Phoenix attempts to attack, but her powers are still too weak. With a crack of flame, Nightcrawler appears next to Lilandra. He breaks her chains as the Soul Drinker closes in for the kill. With the princess frozen in the mind lock of the Soul Drinker, Nightcrawler searches for a way out. With the Imperial forces closing in on one side and the Soul Drinker on the other, Nightcrawler takes desperate measures. He grabs Lilandra and teleports both of them away in the nick of time, almost destroying himself in the process. The dreams of Princess Lilandra. What stuff our dreams are made of. Standing alone in a brilliant shaft of light, Princess Lilandra Neramani lets her thoughts drift. She remembers how she hated the world of political intrigue, and how she fled from it out into the void of space. But she now knows that freedom was an illusion. Her independence was a fantasy, and she has learned that fantasy's terrible price. Lilandra's thoughts are snapped back to the here and now by the ranting of her brother, the Emperor Deken. She is his prisoner aboard an Imperial dreadnought. Deken promises his sister freedom if she will pledge herself to his rule, but Lilandra is defiant to the last. Before Deken can pronounce her death sentence, however, the ship comes under sudden attack. To the rescue of Princess Lilandra come the Pathfinders, her elite exploratory fleet. The dreadnought is severely damaged, and the Pathfinders order them to surrender their prisoner. The dreadnought commander would rather kill Lilandra than give her up, but the resourceful princess breaks free of her captors. As the Imperial dreadnought falls apart around her, Lilandra takes grim satisfaction in blasting the transmitted image of her brother. She escapes to the launch deck and rockets clear of the dreadnought in a scout ship. Once she reaches open space, Lilandra manages to make contact with her flagship. As Lilandra transmits coordinates to her flagship, she is suddenly struck down by a mental force the likes of which she has never known. She cannot resist as images flood into her mind, communicating the totality of experiences of a man in a world completely unfamiliar to her. Lilandra does not resist. To her horror and joy, she welcomes this man. Awakening after the sudden psychic influx, Lilandra is strangely disoriented. Her consciousness is somehow blended with that of a stranger who has just harnessed the psionic potential of every human being on Earth to repel the alien Xenox. Disorientation turns to terror as Lilandra sees the body of her old friend Perry floating through space just outside of her scout ship. She finds her legs paralyzed, but of course, they have not worked since they were crushed by Lucifer. Who is Lucifer, she wonders, and who is she, really? Her mind reeling, Lilandra uses the scout ship's medical scanners to confirm there is nothing physically wrong with her legs. Still, they will not work, and she continues to be plagued by a duality of consciousness. Then, reflected in a display screen, she sees two images blurred together, her own and Charles Xavier's. Gazing at the image of Xavier, Lilandra feels a desperate longing. It's a type of feeling she's shut out of her life and she doesn't like it. The display screen bearing the face of her tormentor explodes under her angry, frustrated attack. Lilandra finds her legs working again. It is Xavier who is the cripple, not she. As she showers, the princess marvels at the sheer power of the psionic wave that struck her. To find the missing piece of her heart in an alien light years away is a difficult thing to accept, especially now that her immediate attention is required at home. As she feels the torment of knowing she will never meet her soulmate, Lilandra comes upon an even greater horror. Her scans show that the Imperial fleet and the Pathfinders have destroyed one another. Now, she has no weapon against her mad brother's scheme to release the powers of the M-Crown crystal. Lilandra's one chance for salvation rests with Charles Xavier and his team of X-Men. Resolutely, she sets her scout ship on course for Earth. Though she is uneasy about what fate lies before her, Princess Lilandra steadfastly chooses to live, to love, to fight. Lilandra explains to the X-Men the destiny they now confront. When Lilandra's brother, the Emperor, discovered the existence and location of an ancient force, the siblings disagreed about its use. To solve the issue, the Emperor branded his sister a traitor. As she fled to Earth to seek Professor Xavier's help, Deken notified his agent there, Devan Shakari, also known as Erik the Red.
I'm the sister of Deken, the Emperor of the Shi'ar. I served my brother loyally, until I learned that he sought to control the greatest power in the universe, the ancient crystal of M-Crown, immeasurably powerful. My brother hopes to harness the crystal's power.
Erik the Red was ordered by his Emperor to kill Xavier or prevent Lilandra from reaching him. He failed, and now the X-Men are present at the one moment in 1,000,000 years when the M-Crown crystal opens a gateway to ultimate power. The tide of the battle begins to turn as the Imperial Guards wear down the X-Men. Even the return of Wolverine, who took time out to obtain a new costume, does little to slow the unrelenting assault of the super-powered guards. Cyclops trades optic blasts with a member of the Imperial Guard, and both fall. Lilandra is seized by Gladiator, and all seems lost until he is blasted by a surprise attack from above. Enter a legend, the Starjammers. Corsair, Chode, Raza, and Hepzibah, and... 1 minute the Enter a legend, the Starjammers. Corsair, Chode, Raza, and Hepzibah enter the battle, weapons blazing. 1 minute the Imperial Guard was on top, and the next, surprised and slammed off balance by the Starjammers' sudden attack, they're not. Before they know it, the fight is over, with the X-Men and their newfound allies victorious.
Start the ball, Cajun.
X-Men! Get the crystal!
The X-Men and Starjammers have only won a temporary victory. There is still the Emperor to deal with. Ken taunts the heroes from high atop the crystal.
No, Scott! You can't!
What?
The Death Stars in the sky over the M'Kraan crystal beam a blinding blue-white light down into the huge gem. The ancient crystal begins to pulse with power and then explodes, causing a cosmic blink that is felt throughout the universe, including back on Earth.
In the name of Shara and Kithri and the sacred ancestors of the Shi'ar,
Ken, no!
I call upon the 9 dying stars and the world that has no name.
Stop! I am the guardian of the crystal.
Unlock the power of the M'Kraan and make the galaxy mine! You are too late!
I was not yet strong enough to stop him. It has begun. By opening a breach in the crystal, Ken has unleashed the power of the negative galaxy inside.
You mean it might get out?
I mean we, and everything we know, may soon be pulled in.
Part 5. Armageddon. The X-Men and the Starjammers watch in awe as the sky above the M'Kraan crystal shimmers with energy. They can only wonder how to react to a force so great. They can neither fight it nor run from it. In the StarCorps Space Lab, Dr. Peter Corbeau has detected the cosmic blink. He warns the planet's leaders that another blink could disrupt the lines of force that bind the universe together, and there's nothing they can do about it. The X-Men are startled by the arrival of Joff, guardian of the Gate of Eternity they stand before. Underestimating the small being's power, Wolverine approaches him and is hit so hard he almost reaches orbit. Joff easily absorbs all the punishment the X-Men and the Starjammers can throw at him. Then, Phoenix pulls a meteor out of orbit and brings it crashing down on the tiny guardian of the crystal. Incredibly, Joff is unscathed by the impact of the meteor falling from space. Banshee decides to try another tactic, and as the Guardian crushes his ribs, he heroically fires his most intense sonic blast ever. Banshee's pinpoint attack destroys Joff, leaving the mutant hoarse and exhausted. Unfortunately for the X-Men, the crystal has another guardian, 1,000 times more powerful than the first. As the enormous new Guardian scatters the X-Men, Raza and Colossus close in on D'Ken. With the fate of the universe hanging in the balance, Raza hurls the Screaming Emperor into the crystal. Suddenly, the X-Men and Starjammers find themselves inside the heart of the crystal. Phoenix feels herself being drawn to a beautiful glowing sphere at the gem's heart. Phoenix's hand turns translucent where she touches the sphere. But before she can cry out, beams of blood-hued light strike into the minds of each of the heroes. They suddenly find themselves plunged into their worst nightmares. Phoenix comes out of her nightmare as she is reborn without the fear of death. She finds Cyclops' optic blasts firing through her ghostly body, and she uses her powers to stop them. Cyclops' wild optic blasts have shattered the crystal sphere. Transforming into a fiery bird, Phoenix passes into the sphere, where she finds a geodesic latticework of anti-energy. It is alive, but quickly dying. The death of the sphere's energy lattice will set free the neutron galaxy inside. If that happens, whole galaxies will be snuffed out in the twinkling of an eye, and Phoenix's power is too little to stop it. Phoenix knows how to knit together the power lattice, but the N galaxy is pulling her away from reality. Only the life forces of Storm and Corsair can anchor her to the here and now. After revealing that she knows that Corsair is Cyclops' father, Phoenix plunges into the energy sphere. There she changes, taking on a blazing bird form and becoming one with the lattice pattern surrounding the N galaxy.
Goodbye, my friends. I love you all. Goodbye, Scott. Someone, help me find a way! Your wisdom, your compassion, your gentleness, your innocence, your courage, your love.
No! You cannot contain the power of the crystal! You cannot! No!
As Phoenix struggles in her task, the spirits of the X-Men join hers, giving of themselves as Storm and Corsair did. Phoenix feels her power surge, and a new pattern forms in the lattice. This is the last thing Phoenix remembers until the X-Men return home at last.
The crystal shall be buried forever. Oh, Scott. If only you could see it.
The X-Men have a new ally in Firelord, who has learned the truth from Professor Xavier. And much to the Professor's surprise, Lilandra plans to stay with them until she can be made Empress. For the X-Men, there is finally silence and peace. Elsewhere, aboard a jet-black aircraft, Jason Wingard ponders the sinister psychic rapport that he has cultivated with Jean Grey. He smiles, concentrates, and miles away, Jean Grey's world begins to turn upside down. The X-Men are about to be thrown into another frightening, uncanny adventure.